the Sustainability Management Master's Program, you are answering one simple question. Do you care about your future generation? If you care about your kids, their grandkids, then you care about sustainability. And a sustainability manager is someone who has the tools to make people understand how they can contribute towards developing a sustainable world. We have both part-time and full-time students. Our curriculum is 30 hours. Instead of thesis, we have a research project course and a seminar course which provides them with the kind of research background they will need to be successful in their job. But at the same time, sustainability is not always everything about environment. It also relates to the business. They will take a sustainable business strategies course. They will take a project management course. Most of these courses are going to be taught by industry people, the people who are doing sustainability on a daily basis as a part of their job. Any organization that has a large number of employees and has a physical infrastructure, they will have to have a sustainability office. If you have the passion to develop and maintain a sustainable world, come to us and we will help you shape your passion into a career which will create an impact. Again, remind me who is going first.
Okay, I think, I really want Isabella to go first.
Okay, all right, so Isabella goes first. All right, so folks, it's a great pleasure to introduce our speakers today, Mrudula Malidi and Isabella Pulachioppu. So these are our own students. Their individual capstone projects got the gold and silver awards last spring. So Mrudula graduated with an MS in Sustainability Management, and Isabella is now finishing her MBA courses in the MS MBA dual degree program in Sustainability Management. So Mrudula got her BTech in Information Technology from Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University in India before she joined our program. And she currently works as a business analyst for Nomura, handling ESG data. And Isabella got her BE in environmental engineering from Penn State before joining us. And she is now a transit and rail engineer at WSP. WSP, if you remember, is a joint sponsor of our seminar series. So Mrudula and Isabella will talk about the individual capstone projects. As you found out, Isabella will be going first, and she is going to talk about her project where she developed an environmental management plan for a design build project at MTA. All yours, Isabella.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. As stated, I took the capstone last spring and I created an environmental management plan for a PA Phase 0 upgrade at 71 stations project. And I will go into more detail about what that project is. Tonight's presentation will consist of an introduction, the goals and objectives, the project approach, implications, recommendations, and a Q&A. The introduction will include meeting the team and the background of the project. The team consisted of 3 members, myself, Alex, and Dibs. I'm a transit and rail intern at WSP and a full-time graduate student in this dual MS MBA program. I met my external mentor, Alex, through work as he is the Industrial Hygiene and Hazmat Services Assistant Vice President at WSP. He made recommendations for the structure of my EMP, shared a couple of examples and resumes with me, and provided a sanity check of my work. The reference EMPs helped me to better understand what sections were needed for a Metropolitan Transportation Authority Construction and Development, or MTA C&D project, and the type of language that was used in these sort of documents. And of course, Dibs was my internal mentor, and he provided guidance throughout the project, particularly during the one-on-ones and on feedback from our class deliverables. Now onto the background of the project. This project will deliver Public Address Customer Information Screens, or PACIS2 capability to 71 B Division stations within the boroughs of Queens, Manhattan, Bronx, and Brooklyn. PACIS2 capability includes both audio and textual train arrival information, as well as service announcements to customers. The B Division includes the lettered services, and the 71 stations can be seen on the map on the screen. The design builder will furnish and install the PA-CIS2 compatible equipment, as well as some non-PA-CIS equipment. The environmental requirements for the project consist of the environmental tasks and submittals outlined in the following project requirements and design criteria documents. That acronym is PRDC. And so PRDC is 1, the scope of work, and PRDC 12, the environmental. The environmental activities included EMP development, station surveys and drawings, the technical specifications, engineering calculations, track access training, monthly meetings and progress reports, and hazard detection, abatement, and removal. WSP was brought on as a consultant by MTA C&D. I started working as support on this project prior to taking the Capstone course, so I was familiar with the work and had access to the resources that made this individual Capstone project easier to balance with the rest of my workload. Because as mentioned earlier, a work-life balance is hard to maintain. Moving on to the goals and objectives. The purpose of an EMP is to develop a framework for achieving the environmental requirements and objectives while complying with applicable regulations. It provides a strategy for the organization to manage environmental conditions while mitigating their impact to the project outcome. The core of the strategy is to integrate environmental requirements into design construction activities from the beginning. This is done by clearly outlining and communicating the environmental implications of the project to all project members and stakeholders. By following an EMP, an organization can employ continuous process improvement and demonstrate their commitment to environmental stewardship. An effective EMP should address the document's purpose and project scope, outline the applicable laws, regulations, and policies, outline the roles and responsibilities for implementing the plan, establish clear objectives and targets for environmental performance, identify and assess environmental risks and impacts, outline mitigation procedures for minimizing environmental impacts, establish a monitoring and reporting system to track progress and identify areas for improvement, and provide lessons learned for future projects. Some of the objectives for my project are as follows: compliance with the strictest of all applicable government regulations, MTA policies, and contract specifications throughout the project lifecycle. The environmental team is responsible for ensuring that employees are protected from recognized environmental hazards at the project sites, minimization of environmental impact during the construction phase through the preparation of an EMP and procedures for dealing with hazards. The environmental team will learn how to make a more effective EMP for future projects. Now I'm going to go into the approach that I used for this project. The basis of my knowledge going into this project stemmed mostly from project work conducted during my internship, which consisted of reviewing the PRDCs and participating in the scheduling of activities. I also conducted a literature review, which included the environmental and project scope PRDCs for this project and an EMP from another project that was provided by Alex. Finally, feedback and questions from and to Alex throughout the project lifecycle. My first steps were to come up with a project idea and run it by Dibs. Then I found an appropriate external mentor and reached out. I reviewed the environmental PRDC for this project and researched other environmental management plans online. Then I developed an outline and a preliminary timeline for the project. After that, I connected with my external mentor, and he recommended that I change the format. He shared that it's simple, that simple is better for disciplines that people may not be as familiar with, like environmental, and suggested that I remove subcategories. He also provided me with the reference example at this time, and then next I connected with Dibs and we created a more detailed timeline for the project. The expected result of my project was an EMP from the perspective of an environmental manager that clearly outlines the who, what, when, and how of the environmental scope and communicates the project's environmental implications to the other project members and stakeholders. A potential limitation of my EMP is an inability to identify all of the potential environmental hazards that the project teams could encounter during the project lifecycle. The table of contents and table of appendices for my EMP are shown now. There are 14 non-environmental sections, 17 environmental sections, and 10 appendices. My approach to completing the project was to start with the non-environmental sections, then tackle the environmental sections, and finally move on to the appendices. I started with the non-environmental sections to get a feel for the language and ended with the appendices as most of them were add-ons. The project consisted of analyzing an environmental PRDC to understand the parameters for the EMP. I relied on my knowledge of the project, potential environmental hazards, and procedures for mitigating those hazards to develop this project. This is an example of the first environmental section, mold control. I structured all of the environmental sections in a similar fashion to increase the readability of the document. I started with a description of the hazard, applicable regulations and guidelines, additional hazard information if needed, and then what the technical specification would include. I added relevant sections that I felt were missing from the reference that was provided. For instance, I added a goals and objectives section to the actual document and multiple appendices to support it. The first addition to the appendices was a requirements traceability matrix, or an RTM. And the purpose of an RTM is to track and demonstrate the relationship between project requirements and their corresponding QV scribe score, verification method, and status to ensure that all requirements are properly addressed, implemented, verified, and completed. QV Scribe, I'm sure is not super common knowledge. It's a tool that I was introduced to at work, and it's a requirements analysis tool. And it helps to improve the quality, clarity, and consistency of requirements in alignment with EARS, which is easy approach to requirement syntax. And part of the RTM was using QV Scribe to run an analysis on the general requirements provided in the PRDC and include the resulting report that was generated. The image on the left shows the QV Scribe window in Word that you would see because it's a Word add-on. And the image on the right is a summary of the requirement scores. So you can see a lot of 5s and 3s. There were only 1, 2, and 1, 1. So pretty good. I also created a risk register and risk assessment matrix for the environmental hazards addressed in the EMP. The risk impacts and probability levels were assigned based on a chart that spans impacts of negligible to catastrophic and probabilities of rare to highly likely. The need to prioritize a risk increases from the green area of the matrix to the red. The last appendix additions were templates for a monthly meeting agenda, a progress report submittal, an action item log, and a performance indicators tracker that clearly defined expectations for these activities. This slide contains a snipping of the progress meeting section and the associated appendix. So you can see I wrote essentially requirements that outline exactly what is expected from these progress meetings. And similarly, this is the progress report section and associated appendix, and it just follows a similar format. At the end of this project, my final deliverable was a 106-page document that included 15 tables and figures, 20 pages of resumes, and a 20-page QV Scribe report. So it's really interesting to figure out what exactly your deliverable will look like and what you want to include in it. This is my Gantt chart. I broke my timeline into 3 sections: project management, develop EMP, and deliverables. The project management tasks consisted of connecting with my mentors and defining the project scope. The develop EMP tasks were research, grading an outline, and completing each of those sections and appendices. The deliverable tasks consisted of all the course deliverables for the individual Capstone class. And I started working on my capstone in early November of 2023, so before the semester started, which I highly recommend. The images are from my work plan presentation, so they were taken around the end of February. And by this time, I had finished the project management tasks, was 9% of the way through the develop EMP tasks, and 33% done with the deliverables tasks. This is part of my task status table, something that you're going to work on for your final report. And it shows the deadlines that I set for major milestones and the days that I actually completed them by. I had a bit of a slow start at the beginning because I wasn't prepared for really working with an external mentor. It was a bit of an adjustment. So I didn't leave enough time or wiggle room for response time. And looking back, I should have reached out sooner. But I did still manage to finish the bulk of my EMP ahead of schedule. I completed the final deliverable on April 19th, which gave me plenty of time to get feedback on it and just sort of really clean it up and work on my final report for the class and dedicate even more time to the team capstone. Next, I'll go over the implications for sustainability management. An effective EMP significantly adds to an organization's sustainability journey by increasing their understanding of sustainability, its importance, and effective methods for improvement. For the PA Phase 0 Upgrade 71 Stations project, this plan will minimize negative environmental impacts through the assessment of potential risks and their probability and impact. Identified hazards are then directly addressed in the EMP to prepare the project team for encountering them during the project's lifecycle. Environmental impacts will be reduced through measures that lead to resource management approaches that increase resource efficiency and cost savings. The EMP will allow for greater transparency and accountability of the design builder by clearly outlining environmental responsibilities, goals, regulations, and processes for other teams on the project and people in your organization to review. This not only works to hold the environmental team accountable for sticking to it, but increases the organization's understanding of sustainability and can result in its further integration into the company culture. The EMP enables every individual working on the project to understand the environmental implications of the work being done. Therefore, there will be an increase in the organization as a whole's understanding as employees on the project team share these insights with other employees at the company. The EMP will also serve as a guide for future projects, as lessons learned will be documented as part of the monitoring and evaluation plan for continuous improvement. Aspects of the EMP that were effective will be replicated, and aspects that were ineffective will be modified. Having a foundation or process for creating an EMP can boost an organization's reputation with potential clients that value sustainability and minimization of environmental impact. The next section will cover recommendations for approaching the capstone course. So as I said, I recommend getting started early. Trying to work on this capstone or get it started before the semester starts really helps, especially if you need to collect data and you want to just try to come up with an idea, maybe reach out to a mentor and start figuring out what your final deliverable will look like. If possible, pick a project that you're already involved with. This is advice that I got when I was in your shoes, and it really helped me because I didn't need to spend as much time conducting research or seeking out data as some of my peers. And there wasn't a direct overlap with the work that I did for, the work that I did at my internship and what I did for this project didn't directly overlap, but I still had more foundational knowledge and access, so it's still helpful. Give yourself deadlines and stay on track. The end of the semester gets really busy, and you don't want to have to work on this at the last minute because you're going to be balancing 2 capstones, other classes, maybe an internship. And you want to give your external mentor as much time as possible to complete a deliverable or to respond to you. As I said, this was an adjustment for me, but it's important for both the individual and team capstones. You're not going to be their #1 priority, so you need to give them time and create some wiggle room in your schedule. Try to limit your dependence on other people or groups for data, because even though data is a great resource, you need to really plan ahead for that and send requests early. Since I didn't need to gather data from anyone or send surveys to companies, I always had something that I could work on, and I was never stuck waiting on others. So I was able to consistently work on the project. When it comes to the one-on-ones, be prepared and take notes. Dibs is there to help you, so you want to be ready to use the time effectively and run things by him or ask questions. Also, take advantage of the days when there's no class by working on one or both of your capstones. My team had full-time and part-time employees, so it was really difficult to find a time that we were all available. So we really were grateful for the time that we got when we didn't officially have class. And then don't let your individual capstone fall to the wayside by using all of your time for the team one. This was also advice that I received when I was in the SM 501 class, and it was really helpful because I knew that at the end of the semester, I was going to prioritize the team capstone because I didn't want to let my team down. And so I had to really prioritize the individual capstone at the start when we were still waiting on data from our client for the team. And so I really, early on, my division of work looked like more heavily focused on the individual project. And then in the middle of the semester, it was pretty even, maybe a little bit more towards the team. And at the end, it was pretty much focused on the team capstone. And then finally, leave time to make the reports look professional. It's something that really does make a difference. Thank you for listening. Any questions?
All right. Well, as usual, that was an excellent presentation, Isabella. I've always appreciated your presentation skills.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate the recommendations that you came up with. Spot on. So for those of you who will take the capstone course in spring 2026, so these recommendations will give you a very good idea of what is involved. So as Isabella suggested, start early, and then it will be much easier the following semester. If you start in end of fall, then you are pretty much on track. If you want to start at the beginning of spring, you'll be inundated. And but at the end, you get such a great product that you can effectively market to get yourself a pretty good job. So I will go over some of the hands that are raised here, but then I will give it to Mridula, and then at the end, when we have a time, we can come back to questioning Isabella as well as Mridula. All right, so let's go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's pretty much it. Let's go with the 5 hands that are raised, and then I will give the floor to Mridula. Sophia?
Hi, Isabella.
Hi.
Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask if...
Hold on 1 second. Isabella, can you go back to the gallery view?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to ask if you had any difficulties in securing a mentor. And if so, and also just on top of that, if you have any advice for finding a mentor or anything like that. If you could
Yeah,
speak to experience.
I actually can. So the first person that I pictured for my mentor actually wasn't able to get back to me. He had too much going on at work. And so I emailed him, gave him a couple weeks, didn't hear anything, sent a second email, still nothing. So that was when I chose to move on and pursue a new mentor, which ended up being Alex. For finding the right person, I got a little lucky because I did the thing where I chose a project that I was experienced with through work. So I just kind of targeted people on the environmental team that worked on that PRDC. So I had sort of a small list to approach for help. So that would be ideal, I would say, in this scenario. And if not, I think you just have to sort of nail down what you want to learn or to do on your project, and then either research people at the university or at a company that you might know of who work on that sort of area. Hope that helps.
Okay. Shival.
Yes, Professor. Thank you. Isabella, thank you for the great presentation. I just had one small question. I am working as a project manager right now, but I am unable to convince my company how to undertake an environmental based project. So how can I convince them towards that?
Okay. I think that's really dependent on what your project is working on and what your field, what approach you'll take. But I think it's really just important to lay out all the benefits that can be achieved from understanding the environment and understanding the implications associated with it. Maybe if there are some of environmental risks that you're aware of that are really likely to impact the project, that's a great starting point. I would also recommend going with, of course, the thought just left my head, really just showing that environmental protection and economic growth are not mutually exclusive, and that stuff like the risks or even potential growth opportunities that are associated with environmental impacts are great to highlight.
Right. Okay, so sorry, just to continue with it. They are actually, as you mentioned, I showed them some of the benefits of going through this project. They are asking me to give a breakdown of an economic, how they would be affected economically if we undertake this project, and what would be the outcomes in terms of like benefiting towards employees or somewhat, like stakeholders mainly. So how do I explain them the economic benefits? Like how it won't be economically highly.
Shaibal, have you ever taken a course that teaches TEA, techno-economic analysis?
No, professor, I haven't
Like
been gone
again,
through.
those like that is the advantage of taking some sustainability courses. These
Oh,
tools come in very handy, particularly
right,
when you are embarking in an almost impossible task of convincing your bosses why an environmental assessment is necessary. What I
right,
would suggest is basically like read up on this before you open your mouth. Otherwise, like again, you can actually it would be difficult for you to convince your boss,
right,
particularly in this economic environment.
right. Okay, thank you, professor.
Sure. Ram Sundar?
Hi, Professor. Thank you. Hi, Isabel. I really liked the way you presented it. There was so much information in your presentation. Thank you so much. So my question is, what inspired you to focus on environmental management in your career, and what's been the most rewarding part of it so far?
Okay. So what inspired me is just growing up, like I always just was so caring about the environment. Like I just used to get upset about the smallest things. Like I still remember when my parents cut down the tree in our front yard. It was the topic of my first ever argumentative essay in class. I was not pleased. So just always known that I wanted to do something that would help and preserve the environment. Environmental management specifically. A little bit through coursework here at Stevens and a little bit through my internship at WSP. In terms of the most rewarding, could you repeat that question for me, actually? Do you mind?
Yeah. What's been the most rewarding part of it so far?
I would say the most rewarding part is just knowing that all of the information I've learned at Stevens is actually helping me and I'm applying it and it's showing me that I really did understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And my role isn't too directly related to the environment right now. I'm hoping that will change in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully the most rewarding part will be the impact I have on the environment.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dibs, you're muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, like again, I just didn't want to create a background noise here. But again, Shashank will ask the question now, but after Shashank, I'm going to give the floor to Mridula so that she can finish her presentation. And after that, we can come back and basically like ask both the speakers questions, okay?
Yeah, thank you, Professor. Hi, Isabella. It was a great presentation. It was really very knowledgeable. So, I mean, my question is like, how is the effectiveness of EMPR typically measured throughout the life cycle of the, project? Because from this we can actually get a chance to, to evaluate and to track out the result. Because it's directly it is connected to the idea of like continuous process improvement, right? So
Yeah.
I just wanted to know how is the results are actually tracked. Effectiveness of EMP are typically tracked.
So I'm not too involved with that aspect of it. So I'm not super familiar. I would say that it's typically done through your objectives or your goals that you set at the beginning. Like I believe for this one, I set a goal for percentage of environmental impacts that were anticipated before they occurred.
Mhm.
So I believe it would be things like that. You could also see how much money you spent on a preventative measure, and then if the impact occurred, how much money you saved by not having to deal, like by utilizing the preventative measure that you had put in place.
Oh, yeah.
So I would say things like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Now I'm going to move over to Mrudula, and Mrudula will talk about her capstone project, which is ESG impact, linking sustainability to financial success. And Shaival, again, this might help answer part of your question. And also, I want to make a note here that Mrudula currently works as a business analyst for Nomura, handling ESG data. So that shows the direct connection between her research project and the job that she is doing at Nomura. All right, Isabella. Mrudula, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkar. So yes, hi everyone. Several thank you for setting the precedent for my presentation. So that the question is exactly what has pushed me to take up this concept here of linking ESG impact and financial success. So let me quickly get started.
Mrudula, can you speak up a little bit, or maybe get closer to the microphone?
Yes. Is this fine? Is this audible? Is this tone?
Yeah, it is audible. That's
Yeah.
fine. The volume was a little bit low, but that's fine.
Yes. So yeah. Before I just tell you about my Capstone experience, let me take you all of you guys through the scope and depth of the research that I've done. So my Capstone project, this is a fairly research project. I did work in Nomura. I did intern in Nomura in 2023 summer, but then I couldn't take up that work as a project because of policy. It's a financial firm, so it doesn't allow me to uh, put any of my work outside the firm. So yeah, I just took up a research project, and so uh, yeah, and let me just get started. So Professor Nunes has been my mentor for this project, and because this is a research paper, and all I wanted to focus was on quantitatively proving the impact of ESG on financial aspects of any firm. So I thought Professor Nunes would be the perfect person to help me out with the statistical analysis. And Dr. Sarkar has been the internal advisor. He has taken me through all of the stages of Capstone. He has guided me really well through that. And also, I want to give a little credit to Mr. Pio Sudash. He couldn't join us today. I did send him the invite, but yeah, he is my manager, and he is the vice president. He's in a post of vice president in Nomura Holdings. So I work with client data services. So basically, our team handles all of reference and ESG data of all of the clients that Nomura has. Nomura is a financial brokerage firm, and luckily for me, in 2020, Nomura has acquired a green tech firm and has renamed it to Nomura Green Tech, which helps sustainable infrastructure and any projects in other firms to get investors to actually attract investors. And in that, I don't completely work on the operations side. I'll be very honest here. I work on the tech side. So I handle the ESG databases, which have all of this client data that would require for the investors, or that would require for the actual operations team that work on floor regarding investing in finance to make informed decisions. So I technically work with work with just the data, ESG data. And just to give you guys a context, I have a bachelor's in information technology that actually helped me land this role here. And since I had a mixed skill set of both tech and a bit about ESG and ESG data with my master's in sustainability management, I could land this job luckily. So yeah, and about my project, so what exactly this is about, like we have discussed. So I try to investigate the relationship between ESG performance and financial metrics. And this particularly, this paper, I should say, let me call this a paper because it would be more appropriate since this is a research project. So my paper, I tried to focus on various business sectors. We have gone through literature review. So this particular relationship between ESG performance and financial metrics, a lot of research has been done on that before. So I wanted to focus on the distinction between business sectors, and I took up a couple of them. Let us discuss that in the next slide. So yeah, basically the aim of the project was to provide valuable insights for investors, stakeholders that I've seen during my internship, how the data helps them actually make informed decisions. So that was the aim of this project. And again, why this? So all of us are most of us, I guess, are from sustainability management. So I need not specifically answer this question to you guys, why this is very important, but let me just still go ahead and say. So if you look at this, we have Bloomberg has actually predicted that ESG assets will hit 50 trillion by 2025, and now it's 2025, and I just did a bit of research lately, and that actually hit the 50 trillion mark, and it's 53 trillion now. So it is actually more than a third of the total global assets that are under management. And so in this case, we we see that the ESG investment is on rise, and the market participants are exploring the extent to which these can affect financial performance, not just us. These are the questions that everyone has. So even the firms, if they wanna just put their foot into this, they would have to make sure that they are gonna get some return on investment, and we got we got to have a quantitative proof to show that these are not mutually exclusive. Like ESG investment would give you a return on investment, ROI. And in the current US scenario, we all know the urgency for companies to integrate ESG strategies, mostly because of compliance and to maintain competitiveness here, and also for reputational strength. So it is very important to understand this relationship for an informed decision making. And when I did work on this paper, very little research was focused on sector specific, like I said earlier. So that was the main aim, and that's why I took this up. And the main objectives of my paper here, my project that I have put in at first was to was in layman terms, it was just to put out the relationship in numbers. So that needed statistical analysis that included correlation metrics, and I had to do factor analysis to point out which factors exactly influence the financial metrics, and then conduct a regression analysis to just lay those relationships out. And then, like I said, sector specific insights. This is the crux of my paper. And I also tried putting out trends and patterns in ESG through my case studies. That would show that would serve as an example to show that okay, these are not mutually exclusive, and we already see this trend in any firms that have followed in the last few years. And I also wanted this to have, this should actually support recommendations for investors and stakeholders. So these are the sectors that I've been talking about. I picked up 5 sectors: technology, finance, energy, consumer goods, and healthcare. So all of my research surrounded all of these 5 sectors. So I have different data sets for these sectors. I've pulled them out. I've picked 50 companies in total, 10 each from each of the sectors. And then that data I've worked on, I've made a statistical analysis out of that data. Coming to the methodology, so all my data sources, I had to make sure that we have reliable data, and it is very hard out there now that we have a lot of sources on the internet. We have to make sure that any data that we use for research should be reliable. So my financial performance data, I picked it up from S&P Capital IQ. So anyone that follows the financial news and stuff, you'll know that this is uh, out of all of the free source resources that we have, this is something that we can rely on. And then Refinitiv. Luckily for me, I found that a compiled ESG scores of a lot of companies have been maintained by the Refinitiv, and this data source is supported by Wharton Data Services of University of Pennsylvania, and this is also free source, so this has worked out well for me. And like I said, I took a sample of 50 companies, and I made sure I included all small and large scale. It's at times we just look at large scale companies, but global economy also consists of small and large scale together. Only large scale would never give us accurate data. So I have picked up data from 2019 to 2023, a range of 5 years. So I thought that should accurately give us some analysis that can show us the current trends. And so the techniques that I've used, like I said earlier, was correlation analysis and factor analysis and regression analysis. And I've also given case studies, so case study analysis as well. So these are actually the scores that I've picked up from Refinitiv. These are the cumulative scores. So again, if any of you have taken up Dr. No, Derek's course, he clearly has listed out what all firms actually give out ESG scores and stuff. So Refinitiv is one of them, and we get these kind of cumulative scores in that. So since this is free source, I've taken this up, and this is the list of the ESG attributes that I have picked up for this. And on the finance side, I wanted to work with 5 different revenue, net income, return on equity, and debt to equity ratio, earnings per share, but I couldn't because of time constraints. This had made my scope very, very large for this project, so I had to cut it down and just stick with revenue and net income. So these are the most important ones, I'd say. Even in the finance sector, the basic concepts, and for any company, these are the ones that first come into their mind if we think about financial success. So I just had to stick with revenue and net income. But the other ones, they leave us scope for future references. So yeah, that should help any one of you if you guys are interested. Now, so yeah, after all of those analysis, we did find out. So these are my key findings. I did factor analysis, and I actually listed out a couple of factors. I will not bore you guys all of this with the statistical analysis. Don't worry about that. This is the basic gist. In layman terms, whatever I found out after the quantitative analysis is this: that in technology sector, overall ESG integration and social and product responsibility are the high impacting factors for both revenue and net income. And for healthcare sector, it's the ESG core and environmental impact that helps with an increase in revenue. I mean, these we have case studies as well that are showing these particulars. So my case studies were surrounding these findings, and how this it's basically an example for these findings. Yeah. And for consumer goods, we have ESG core performance and social and governance impact that that actually see a high net income in companies that focused on this. And for energy sector, it's the innovation that matters a lot. And we see that any firm that has been focusing on innovation and social responsibility in energy sector has been seeing high revenue and high net income. And the finance sector, we see that financial governance and customer and market engagement would actually has been proven to show good revenue and net income here. So this is it about the research that I've done. And coming to my capstone experience, how I started it, how it all went. So I did start working on this. I was to be honest, I was very scared. I did not. I always had this thing in my mind that I am not of sustainability background. I am from IT, so anything that I do would require additional efforts from my end for me to uh, catch up with the other guys. So I started working on this in November, and I remember reaching out to Dr. Sarkar that I've already I'm picking this. I might have been late. So I was all in a mess. I was like fish out of water at the start, and then Dr. Sarkar was like, You're doing good. You're fine." So yeah, and I also recommend you guys to do this. Do not wait until the start of the semester to at least to conceptualize what you're going to work on. So I just made a plan. I mean, literature review was already done by the time I started working on this. So data collection did take a lot of time for me. So data collection, and I've left a good 1.5 months of time for quantitative analysis, like all of the correlation, the regression analysis and stuff. And for qualitative analysis, just for the case studies, I had to dive very deep into it because I had to I had to go through all of the news portals and stuff. I had to make sure that the data is, or the information that I'm putting out is from reliable sources and that actually matches what my quantitative analysis has proved. So I should basically get out examples from current trends that are in the financial and the sustainability sector to prove my point here. So that also took a lot of time. And the final project report, I had only allocated a week for this in the initial stages, and that worked out later, but I would definitely not recommend that for you guys. That's something that you shouldn't do. So the challenges that I faced are that, this data, especially when it is in financial sector, the data complexity is huge. So the attributes that I've shown you, the revenue, net income, and return on investment and stuff, these are just the part of the top layer. But in finance sector and even in ESG scores, that we have a lot of data there. It's not just that we go out and pick stuff that already there. We gotta do an extensive research and make sure that for our research what is gonna serve our purpose and how feasible it is for us to acquire the data and how are we gonna just narrow the scope. So and volume is too high. So I have personally, I did aim real high for this project in the earlier stages, and then I thought I could do it, but then Dr. Sarkar has advised me. He has pointed out that this is gonna be impossible now. Now your scope is too high. Only then I realized that okay, now going forward, if I am to work on each of this sector, for me, for the statistical analysis for all of these companies, or just the distinction, is gonna take a lot of time, and I still had the group project to work on with Marriott. So yeah, so we we tend to lose our track sometimes there, and that's one reason why it is very important to have timely feedback from both of the mentors, all of the mentors if you have more. And ensuring data accuracy is very important in research projects like this. If the sources are not reliable, if the data is not accurate, then it completely defeats the purpose. Now if anyone is going to go ahead and question me that this is wrong, this is something that you've proved is based on wrong data or wrong assumptions, then yeah, it completely defeats the purpose. So it is very important to make sure whatever we get from whichever resource is very accurate, and we and that this the respect for our research is only based on our sources, the accuracy and integrity of our sources. So and again, there are the statistical models are very complex. Now, I did not really delve deep into this in this presentation, but there have been instances where I was completely wrong with my analysis, the tools that I've used. I was fairly new to it. I did just take one course, the statistical analysis course of Professor Nunez again in the first semester. But by the time I had started working on this, then I did realize that, I had some missing gaps in my skill set. So Professor Nunez really helped me fill those gaps, and then regular continuous feedbacks helped me improve, my skill set, as well as what all I've been doing for this project, how each of the statistical model I have understood a lot while working on this. So yeah, they are complex. So anyone that is trying to take their project on this aspect, on a statistical or a quantitative research level, then you should be prepared for this complexity. It is complex. It is really complex, and you got to just wrap your mind around it. And interpretation of results it was it was actually a bit tough for me, because I the factor analysis did make it okay, but the factor analysis wouldn't give me the accurate titles that I've shown you. I had to sit with Professor Nunez and understand that these factors are influencing this particular dependent variable. So how are we gonna just you know give a name to it, and how can we present it? So result interpretation for this kind of research project is also needs a lot of patience and time to work on. And the sector specific variations, my main aim of the project was to show this. So I had to sit and make sure that in every phase I'm actually showing the distinction, and I'm actually supporting the objective that I have made up for this project in the first place. So what I could have done better. So this after execution of all of this, and after preparing a report, I myself was very, very proud of what I've done. And Professor Nunez has also, she has encouraged me that, this is some real good work. So we got to publish this. But unfortunately, I couldn't do that because I have started working in June. And once I got into corporate, like I said, I work in a financial firm. The policy there is very, very strict. And when I have signed up for the job, when I have accepted the job offer, I did, it is included in that I do not publish any IP by myself without giving an affiliation to the firm. And big, like the large firms like Nomura and stuff, they are very, very critical on where their name is being affiliated. That's common for everyone. So I tried, publishing this research after joining the firm, but it was nearly impossible because this is an academic paper, and more often than not, companies would not waste, or for them it is a waste of time just to allocate people for reviewing research papers. So that is one thing I should have worked on. I should have thought about publishing the research from the conception. I should have at least tried, inculcating the steps. I should have made a plan around that, which I didn't. So that is one thing that I think I could have done better, or maybe just planned for that earlier. Uh, so the value of mentorship and capstone success, like I've been telling earlier, a lot of these things. I was like fish out of water in the start, and at the end, I felt really confident of the work that I've done. So that actually gives you way more than what this slide does. So let me just skip this in interest of time. Okay, so yeah, for you guys, I am gonna give a couple of suggestions. Like I said, define your objectives and think long term. Do not regret not thinking about publishing your research, or not. Just make sure that there is some value that is going to be there for your work in the long term. and then make your plans around it and define your scope and then stick to it. More often than not, you will feel, that we have this data, we have that data, we can achieve this. If I sit some more time, I can do this. But still, at the end, at least for the capstone, you gotta make your report 40 or 30 pages long. So you gotta trim things out. So it's better you define your scope and then stick to it. And Dr. Sarkar is there to help you with it. He has helped me defining my scope a lot, and that has helped, managing my time a lot. And so yeah, start early and just continuously engage with data. Only then you can understand it. Even until the last day, I was, you know, knowing new things. I was discovering something else with the data that I have, with the project that I was working on. So yeah, and then regular feedback sessions. Please stay in touch with your mentors. We often think that we know everything, but we don't. It's very less that and leave enough time for working on the report. The report will think that that's the last thing. No, that's not the last thing. That actually summarizes your work. So if that doesn't go well, then it's you're not able to tell people what you have done. It's the report that talks for you and for your project. And also all of this along with the group project can make you feel overwhelmed at times. So for maintaining work life balance, you gotta stick to your like strict schedules. And yeah, so that was reference. So may the force be with you guys. That's it. Do you have any questions?
All right. So again, a very good presentation. Thank you.